Now then, with the latest chapter of One Piece, 1105, how it ended has started a wave in the fandom. The chapter ending on a cliffhanger with the revelation of the Navy ship having been destroyed that had been sent to sink the civilians that lived on Egghead and evacuated earlier in the arc, and the mystery of who destroyed the ship and who is heading for Egghead now, and why, because that's of course the important part. Most theories seem to be divided on Dragon coming to save Kuma, finally doing something in the story, or the Blackbeard pirates that we saw in chapter 1079. Either way, both of these groups have a good motive to come to Egghead. Dragon for the obvious reasons, but we know we can't rely on that. Dragon hardly ever does anything that should be obvious for him to do. And the Blackbeard pirates, maybe for the knowledge of the Void Century, maybe Blackbeard knows about Mother Flame, Vegapunk's weapon, or maybe because of his connection with the Winter Island, which might have been Vegapunk's hometown. But I don't think it's either of these two characters or groups. It's going to be the Cross Guild. The first reason, which is the obvious reason, is the marine bounties, the presence of both Saint Saturn and Admiral Kizaru, and a whole fleet of marines, as that's the nature of the Cross Guild, giving bounties for captured marines. But then, why are they attacking themselves? That's literally not how the organization that is Cross Guild should work. They are not earning anything by attacking the marines themselves. Well, there are two reasons for this. First is to make a statement. Simply creating an organization with the help of Mihawk's reputation isn't enough. A statement, an act of great intention has to be made to show the world, the One Piece populace, that Cross Guild is the real deal, which would result in stronger and more famous marines getting captured and targeted than T-Bone. Second is of course Buggy's declaration for the One Piece, which of course raises the question, why are they targeting Egghead? What is there at Egghead? It's the Straw Hats. Both Kid and Law were attacked or forced a confrontation with the other two emperors, losing their poneglyphs and thereby being taken out of the race for the One Piece. Now I am not saying that the Straw Hats lose their poneglyphs here. I mean, as long as Oda keeps Luffy fit, that is simply not happening. No matter who comes, Mihawk or Shanks or Dragon or Akainu, unless a long drawn out fight happens against Luffy, that is not happening. But I do think Cross Guild find a way, maybe in exchange of helping the Straw Hats, or maybe Buggy somehow pulls it off. That's the stuff regarding Cross Guild as an organization coming to Egghead. Now, moving on to Mihawk and his importance here. Mihawk's character and Oda's pattern is the reason I had the idea of Cross Guild coming to Egghead in the first place, and also the dragon theories. Oda, as an author, follows patterns. The story of One Piece has a lot of patterns which can be evident to anyone. But the reason for Mihawk is because of a pattern that's not been talked about before in the community, which is the pattern of introduction. With Shanks finally showing off his power and being involved directly in the story due to the final saga, now the order of introduction heavily matters here. Shanks was introduced in chapter 1 of One Piece, Mihawk in chapter 50, and Dragon in chapter 100 of One Piece. Oda is obviously going to reveal their abilities and make them the focus of the story in order. That's why I am opposed to Dragon showing up on Egghead. And that's also why I got the idea of Mihawk, which led to this Cross Guild theory. As Shanks has already displayed one of his moves and is getting involved even more in the story, it's the right time for Mihawk to be the focus. And above all, it's because of the emergence of Monkey D. Dragon, his involvement in the story. The community are calling this the year of Monkey D. Dragon, and for that to happen, Mihawk has to be involved in the story first and before Dragon, according to the order of introduction. Oda can't any longer delay Dragon in the story. The world of One Piece gets bigger each time the Straw Hats get stronger. When they were rookies, we only got some low dumps here and there, as Luffy and the Straw Hats were not big enough yet, not impactful enough yet. Now Luffy is an emperor. Even a rumor about him is capable of forcing the Navy HQ into high alert, like Shanks and Whitebeard did in pre-time skip. And his actions are also capable of influencing all major events in the story. He has that big of a clout now. Biggest example is the way Shanks' own crew, a Yonko's crew, was talking about Luffy in chapter 1054. And of course, with this much influence, Monkey D. Dragon's involvement can't be avoided any longer, which is why Mihawk needs to show up as soon as possible to maintain the order of introduction and of course the order in which they should become the focus of the story or one of the characters in main focus, even if it's for a chapter or two. Now, the final and most obvious reason is the Straw Hats can't escape this situation alone. Luffy simply isn't ready yet, nor are the Straw Hats. I know I said before Luffy has become this much impactful, but that's clout. And with Big News Morgans being a worst generation fanboy, he has the clout. And I am also not undermining his strength. I don't think Blackbeard or Big Mom would survive this burst call either, as their crews aren't on their level. They can handle the big players themselves, but the crew simply isn't up to the mark. With these pacifistas working against them, that's why they need an external force strong enough to pull this off in a victorious style. And the reason Egghead has to be a victory and not an escape is, of course, the major incident that will shock the world that Oda teased earlier in the arc. This event has to end in either both Kizaru and Saturn dying, or both Kuma and Saturn dying, or at least Saint Saturn's death and a slight chance of Kizaru's capture at the hands of the Cross Guild. This and the failure of the destruction of Egghead Island is enough of an incident to shock the world, and even if Morgans favors the government in this situation, it would be nearly impossible to hide. The reason, of course, Buggy, with him involved in this incident, it's much more likely to be even more exaggerated than to be unsealed. Well, those are all my reasons for the Cross Guild to come to Egghead, with the most important and the basis for this, of course, being the order of introduction of Shanks, Mihawk, and Dragon. And also, maybe that's their order of strength. Maybe Shanks is the strongest, or Dragon is the strongest, but either way, Mihawk is the middle guy between them. Well, that's all for this one. Hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was worth the watch. And if it was, like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you next time.